Hi there. Today we're going to do a quick lesson on the subject matter of contact. I'm going to show you some exercises that you can do with your horse to teach your horse how to accept a little bit of contact in their mouth. And also, if you're somebody that's just learning to ride a horse forward and into the bridle and learning to accept contact yourself, these are also great exercises for you to do. Okay, so basically, we're just going to get started with very simple exercises. And then I'll show you something a little bit harder. You might have to work on your coordination a little to get some of these exercises. So make sure that you take your time. Be patient with yourself when you're trying to do these. And of course, be patient with your horse. And so we can hopefully get a good sense of how to teach our horse to be quiet and accepting of the bit and some pressure in their mouth. And for those of you that sometimes have a little bit of a hard time getting that feeling with equal contact, equal heaviness in your hands, I'm hoping that these exercises might give you that aha moment where you can really feel that. Okay, so if you're ready to get started, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and we'll get going. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is first, I think we need to wake Esprit up a little bit. She's kind of heavy and sleepy today. But all I'm going to do is, you see I have her bridle on. I'm just going to put my hand right behind her chin and take a hold of both reins. I'll kind of move a little bit closer here so you can see how I've got my hand. I just have my first finger in through the middle of the reins and then holding the rest of the reins between my hand. And my hand is just curled. I'm not making a tight fist. I'm just curling my fingers and gently holding onto the reins. But you see I have my hand in a position where it's like I'm holding the bit gently up into the corners of her mouth. Okay, so what I want her to do is I'm standing back here closer to what I would be if I were in a riding position, as opposed to some of the other groundwork exercises we did where we were out a little bit ahead of the horse. Now I'm kind of back here in more of a riding position so she can get used to moving away from me that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Esprit to walk, and then I'm going to go with her. Okay, so she's going to walk first, and I want to get the feeling that she takes a hold of my hand and brings me forward. Okay, and so let's just see if I can get her to go. And she takes me. So I want to walk around like this and feel like Esprit's taking me. And because Esprit is a little bit on the lazy side, I have to use my whip behind me to get her to kind of go a little bit. But I want that nice forward motion so that I feel her taking a hold of my hand. So if you've ever looked up the training scale of dressage, we've already worked a lot on rhythm and relaxation in these videos. And now we're talking about contact. And in order to really truly feel contact, we need impulsion. We need the horse to move forward and take a hold of your hands. So now she's nicely in my hand and I want to stop. So I'm going to stop, and in the stop, the contact got a little bit heavier in my hand. So I want to keep that little bit of heaviness and ask her to walk on again. She's going to take my hand and go forward. Come on, buddy. So I'm going to see if I can work on that speed control that we've talked about. Get her to go a little faster. I'll come towards you again so you can see she's nicely in my hand. So if you have trouble feeling the pull, just stop. And you can feel the pull in the halt. So when you ever do a downward transition, if you keep your hand still and let the horse go forward into that down transition, you'll feel more heaviness in your hand. You want to keep that heaviness in your hand as long as your hand stays soft, and then ask the horse to go forward and you follow. Then you've got a little bit of contact. So I like to tell people when they're trying to feel that, trying to get a little bit of weight in their hands, if you just do a down transition, I'm just going to stop going with her. I didn't tighten my hand. I didn't pull back on my hand. I just stopped, and she kept going forward until she ran into the fact that I wasn't going anymore. So she got heavier in my hand. I like to think of that as she gave me that gift of contact, and I'm going to keep it. You don't want to be rude and give it back. We're going to keep that contact as long as, again, your hand and your arm stay soft. Ask her to walk on. and she takes a hold of you. So I've been doing this little bit of exercise with the spree since she was 2, long before I ever thought about sitting on top of her. She understood this pressure in her mouth, so that wasn't anything new to her once I got on. Then of course we have to change direction, do everything on the other side. So same thing over here, so she gets used to me on this side. Again, if she gets lazy or distracted, you can use my whip behind me to get her to go a little bit more forward, so I feel her pulling on my hands. And I want to really feel for that nice equal weight on both reins. And then when I want to stop, I'm going to stop. She's going to go forward still a little bit, but then lean into my hand that's no longer following her. Now I've got good weight in my hands. I'm going to walk on, and I'm going to keep that weight. I'm not going to give the rein forward to get her to go. I want her to learn that she needs to take a hold of me and take me forward. One good way to think about this is if you think about a parent taking a hold of a child's hand and walking them across the street. You want to feel like that, like your horse is taking a hold of your hand and bringing you across. So there's nothing harsh, it's gentle, but it's just take you and bring you forward, and you go with the horse. You don't want to be that bratty child that doesn't want to go across. Make sure if you ask your horse to go forward and take you, that you go with them. Good. Okay, so that's a pretty basic exercise that you can work on with your horse if they're a young horse or you're just trying to kind of square this whole contact thing with yourself. And then once you feel like you've got that down, we can make it a little bit harder. I'm going to come back to Espree's left side, and I'm going to take that outside rein over her neck. And I'm going to put my hand right down by the base of her neck where we worked before in previous lessons. We talked about this part of her neck as the part where we want her to relax. So this way, what we're going to do now is we're going to add a little bit of bending into this. And as you see, I'm further back now, so I'm closer to where I would be if I were riding, okay? So I'm going to stand back here and hold on to the rein, and I'm going to ask Espree to walk forward and take a hold of my hand. And I can use this inside rein to steer. Come on, buddy. She wants to leave. I'll circle around so you can see. But really, in order for contact to work, you notice that you need a little bit of forward. You need impulsion. You need those back legs to work so she can step into your hand. So you can't really have one without the other. Come on. Get a bug. There we go. Okay. Welcome. And the same thing is going to happen with the halt. If I'm having trouble feeling the contact, I'm just going to stop myself, and she's going to walk a little bit forward into the contact there. She wanted to back away from it, so I used my whip to send her back forward again. And I'm just going to keep going back and forth from walk to halt like this until I feel her a little bit steadier in my hand. So the idea here is to get her feeling pretty solid in the outside rein, and I can use my inside rein to get her to soften and give like we worked on in other lessons. She had to follow the rein, so she's following and flexing left so that she fills up this right rein with her neck. If you get her bending left, the left side of her body gets shorter than the right, and as long as you hold that right rein in place, her neck will fill it up, and you can start to feel some weight over there. And then I can halt again. I'm going to stop. I didn't tighten my fingers. I simply just stopped my body from moving forward. Because Espree was moving forward, she ran into the fact that my hand was no longer going with her. Okay, so if I want to get her a little softer, a little rounder, I can just ask her for that little bit of flexion and then walk off again. And flexing and bending. She's stretching into the outside rein. Come on, buddy. Good. We gotta get going in order for this to work. Good. And right now she's nicely in both of my hands. I feel equal weight on both sides. If she tries to turn her head over to the right, I'm just going to remind her to follow my left rein, and then she fills up the right. Okay, so she did really well in that direction. We're going to change direction. And this is not Espree's favorite direction, so we should work on this. We'll see if we can get her to cooperate with this exercise this way. This is the one that takes a little bit of coordination, a little bit of you getting used to sort of managing your whip and your reins and your steering. As I keep mentioning, it's helpful to make sure your horse is really moving forward into that contact, into your hands. But you can see here, I'm going to walk by the camera, that you can see that I'm going to flex her right. We got to keep going. So her left side of her neck gets longer, and she fills up that left rein. Of course, we want to keep her nose vertical to the ground. If she starts tucking behind the vertical, you can ask her to walk on a little bit more. Pick her head up, and we're going to stop. Okay, so all of that looks and sort of seems fairly simple. It's a little bit harder to actually do than it is to watch. So as I mentioned earlier, just practice, try the best that you can. Have patience with yourself. Maybe just do little bits of it at a time until you feel like you've got the hang of it. But it is a really great way to teach, especially a young horse, about contact before you get up on there. You want them to know everything that they need to know about being a riding horse before you sit on them, because then you don't want to get up on their back the first time and then they feel that bit touch their mouth for the first time and them get scared and not know what that means. So this is a great way to introduce contact to a young horse. And like I said earlier, if you're somebody that's struggling, you're just learning to ride, and you're sort of struggling with the whole idea of contact, try this on the ground and see if that helps you. So for today's challenge, once you feel like you're coordinated and good at this, I am going to challenge you to do the same exercise that I just did with a little bit of trot involved, okay? I won't ask you to canter because you won't see me doing that, although there are plenty of people who are fast enough and strong and healthy enough that they can canter along on the ground with their horse. But I will only ask you to do things that I can do myself. So we'll just practice just a little bit of trot work. So I'm going to start off again on Espree's left side. Take a nice feel so I feel equal weight on both sides. Just steer her over here to me. Get those feet moving. Get her paying attention. Feel the good connection. And we'll see if I can get Espree to trot and take me along. Come on, buddy. Good. You notice I asked her for trot. I went with her. I might like to feel a little bit more weight in my hands, so I'm going to ask her to trot a little bit bigger. So she trots right into it. You see how her nose is pointed at the ground? I feel her out in that right rein. She's getting a good idea of connection, moving forward, taking me with her. And when I want to stop, I'm just going to stop myself. She felt me stop because my hands didn't continue trotting with her. Same with the halt. But I didn't have to close my fingers. I didn't have to come backwards, okay? So those are really good skills to have for both you and your horse. Because when you're a dressage rider, your goal is to never have to come backwards on your horse. You always want everything, even your down transitions, to be forward. This is a good way to get a sense of that. All right, so I'm going to try to the right to do everything both sides. You'll notice that Espree might be a little snarkier about this direction, but we'll give it a try. Come on, buddy. And again, we have distractions outside, really testing Espree's ability to pay attention to me. Trot. And we'll both go for a trot. I asked her for a trot. I went with her. I can use my right rein for a little steering. I like where her head is. Her pole's nice and high. Her nose is pointed at the ground. We got a good shot. When I want to stop, I'm just going to stop myself. She felt me stop because I had good contact. And she walked, and now same thing. I'm going to stop. She's going to run into the contact, feel that I stopped, and she'll stop too. Whew, and we're both tired now. Good job, buddy. Okay, so I'm hoping that that was very helpful to you to explain the whole idea of contact. So our next riding lesson, I'm going to show you some exercises that you can do under saddle so you get the same feeling of riding, nice exercises so that your horse naturally comes in to good contact, good balance in both hands, so that you and your horse both develop nice and evenly on both sides. So if you thought that lesson was helpful, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to share with a friend. Thanks for watching.